Hi everyone, and thanks for being here. This session is designed to help you find and use practical legal resources for your volunteering involving organisation. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we're recording from, which are the Wurundjeri peoples of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to elders past and present and acknowledge that this always was, always is, and always will be Aboriginal lands. This short webinar is hosted on the Volunteering Gateway, and the resources we're talking about today are created by Justice Connect's not-for-profit law program. They are free, written in plain language, and designed for community organisations just like yours. Before I jump in, I'll start by introducing who you'll be hearing from today. I'm Chloe, Online Services Manager at Not-for-Profit Law, and I look after our digital strategy. And I'm joined by my colleague, Caroline Baker, our Online Services Lawyer, who's responsible for all the legal resources on our website. In this session today, we're going to cover why it's important to be across your organisation's legal obligation to volunteers, how and where to access the resources, and a brief overview of the key legal questions covered in the resources. Please note that this session provides general information only and does not constitute legal advice, and you should seek legal advice for your particular circumstances if needed. So a little bit about who is Not-for-Profit Law. Our program is the only national available source of free legal support for community organisations across Australia. Our focus is on helping organisations be stronger and more effective by building the capacity of boards, staff, and volunteers to understand the law and support good governance through free legal resources as well as webinars and training. Today's session is a little different from our usual webinars, and we encourage you to take a look at our regular webinar program, which we run several times a month, and they deep dive into a wide range of legal topics. We also provide access to specialist legal advice for eligible organisations, and then we draw on all the data and insights from our work to help inform and advocate for improvements to systems, laws, and policies. So, a little bit on why our resources matter. Volunteers are at the heart of many community organisations. People often volunteer because they want to contribute to their community in a useful and meaningful way. But a good volunteer relationship doesn't just happen. It needs to be respectful, it needs to be safe, and it needs to work for everyone involved. Not just in the good moments, but when things are unclear or don't go to plan. One way organisations can support that kind of relationship is by understanding the legal side of involving volunteers. So expectations are clear, risks are managed, and people aren't left guessing. Organisations do have legal responsibilities when it comes to volunteers, and those responsibilities aren't always easy to understand, and they can be difficult to untangle without clear guidance. Our resources are informed by Volunteering Australia's National Strategy for Volunteering and refer to the national standards for volunteer involvement. At Justice Connect, we are very proud to be the lead stakeholder for Action 6 in the National Strategy for Volunteering Action Plan. Action 6 is all about increasing volunteer involving organisations' understanding of their legal obligations to volunteers. And that's where our resources come in to help do that. Our resources are a proven and effective way to help community organisations to identify legal issues that may affect their organisation, navigate the information, practices and legislation relevant to managing these issues, and take action to support a safe workplace, protect volunteers and employees, and strengthen governance practices. We've been developing and maintaining resources for over 10 years, and our website hosts now more than 300 free resources to support organisations at every stage of their life cycle, from getting started through to winding up. Our resources are created by our team of passionate, experienced lawyers with specialised knowledge of the community sector and are written in clear, plain English.
So let's dive in. I'll start by showing you where to find our resources. From the Volunteering Gateway, click on the page that's called National Volunteering Guide. Once you're on the not-for-profit law site, there is a dedicated page that brings our volunteer resources together. While we have hundreds of resources across our website, starting with our volunteering page is an easy way in. It'll guide you to any other relevant resources you may need. These resources give general information to help you spot issues and guide you to ask better questions. They are not personalized legal advice, so if your situation is complex, sensitive, or already escalating, the resources may point you towards getting advice. On this page, you'll find our National Volunteering Guide, a link to our National Volunteering Self-Help Tool, a link to download our Sample Volunteer Agreement or Deed of Agreement, our fact sheets on engaging and working with youth volunteers, and a link to our resource on working with volunteers in disaster situations. I'll now briefly go through what information is covered in each of these resources, starting with our National Volunteering Guide. Our National Volunteering Guide is a comprehensive starting point. It is designed to help your organisation understand the legal framework that applies when working with volunteers. The guide covers 3 main areas. The first is the volunteer relationship. This includes guidance on recruiting volunteers, inducting them, managing performance, and where necessary, ending the relationship in a lawful and appropriate way. The second area is volunteer safety. This addresses your organization's responsibilities in relation to negligence and work health and safety obligations, as well as practical issues like risk management, insurance, and child safety requirements. The third area looks at other relevant legal issues that commonly arise, and these include intellectual property, privacy obligations, and appropriate record-keeping practices.
So if you're unsure which parts of the guide may be most relevant to your organisation, you can start by using our Working with Volunteers self-help tool. The tool will ask you a series of questions about your organisation's current plans or activities. The key topics overline with the National Volunteering Guide and include recruitment, safety, unlawful workplace behaviour, managing performance, and ending the volunteer relationship. For example, it will ask you a series of questions about volunteer recruitment, including: do you have or are you planning to have a volunteer role description? Are you planning to advertise your volunteer position? Do you use or are you planning to use a volunteer agreement? Do you undertake or are you planning to undertake a volunteer induction? Do you have or are you planning to get personal accident insurance for your volunteers? And do you undertake or are you planning to undertake background checks as part of the recruitment process? Based on your yes, no, or unsure answers to these questions, it will give you information about the legal issues you might want to consider. And it will also tell you where to find more information about each of these topics in our National Volunteering Guide. It's a very helpful way to get some tailored information based on your specific circumstances and can help you navigate all that information in the National Volunteering Guide.
From our volunteering webpage, you can also download a sample volunteer agreement with drafting tips. Using the tips published in the sample agreement, you can adapt the template to suit the needs of your organization. The sample volunteer agreement has been drafted as a non-legally binding agreement. However, in some situations, an organization may want to place a stronger emphasis on protecting confidentiality and intellectual property. In that situation, a sample confidentiality and intellectual property deed is also available from our website. You can also refer back to our National Volunteering Guide for guidance on when it is appropriate to use an agreement or when it may be more suitable to use a deed. On our volunteering webpage, we also have a fact sheet on engaging and working with youth volunteers. This resource outlines key legal considerations where volunteers are under 18 and includes any additional safeguards that may apply. Finally, our disaster toolkit includes resources on working with volunteers in disaster situations to support organizations to prepare for, respond to, and recover from crises. These materials include guidance on maintaining safe working conditions, protecting workers and volunteers, and managing spontaneous volunteers during periods of heightened demand. Let's bring these resources to life with a common scenario. Imagine a small community organization running a local food program. It's a busy day and volunteers are helping unload and move boxes of supplies. During that process, one of the volunteers injures their back while lifting a box. No one is in immediate crisis, but there is uncertainty and people start asking questions. Are we legally responsible for this injury? Does our insurance cover volunteers in this situation? Should we have provided training or supervision? And does it matter that the volunteer offered to help on their own initiative? These are the kinds of situations our resources are designed to support. In the National Volunteering Guide, you can go to the sections on managing the volunteer relationship and volunteer safety. There you will find guidance on what your organization's legal responsibilities are in this context. For example, the guide explains what it means to take reasonable steps to minimize risk, such as providing basic training, putting safe systems of work in place, and ensuring volunteers are not asked to perform tasks that are not reasonably safe. The resources also help you understand how volunteers are treated in comparison to employees. In areas such as work health and safety, similar principles apply. In others, the legal relationship differs, and this affects how obligations are assessed. Importantly, you will also find guidance on practical steps to reduce risk going forward, such as reviewing manual handling processes, clarifying roles and expectations, and checking that your insurance arrangements appropriately cover volunteer activities.
That's a bit of a rundown of our resources and what they cover. They're there whenever something feels unclear, when something has gone wrong, or when you want to prevent issues before they arise. There's just a few tips that we have based on how organizations tend to use these resources that could be useful for you to keep in mind. So firstly, don't wait for a problem to arise. These resources are most useful when they're used early. You can also share the pages internally, so they're designed to be easily forwarded or printed, and you can use them to start conversations with board, staff, or volunteer coordinators, and then return to them again at the point of need. In addition to these resources, we also offer free legal advice for eligible not-for-profit organisations, and that comes from our team of lawyers with specialised knowledge of the social sector, as well as our network of pro bono law firms. You can make a simple online application at nfplaw.org.au/help to find out whether your organisation is eligible. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the webinar today. And if you would like to explore the resources now, you can follow the links from the Volunteering Gateway. Thank you.